After so much success, observers may have been surprised when Holden decided to withdraw its support for the Holden dealer team in 1980, saying it didn't make sense for the factory to compete against private entrants driving their vehicles. John Shepherd resigned, and Peter Brock and John Harvey were left without a team.
Effectively, the team was available to purchase. I mean, John Shepherd didn't want to buy it. For his own reasons, it was a lot of money. We talked about it, and we decided Peter should buy it. And I'm sure Peter had to borrow some money to do that, but that was part of it. But then it became the Holden dealer team, which it always was, but it was financed by the dealers, and that was the catalyst that started HDT Special Vehicles. The dealers agreed to finance the team on the basis that Peter start a special vehicles operation and use his racing knowledge and experience to develop some cars for the road that could appeal to the punters. So that's where it all came from. But of course the difficult part for the marketing department and the PR department was to actually explain how it had always been known as the Holden dealer team, but now it really was the Holden dealer team who were paying for it.
A couple of people came to me. Dealers. I guess Vin Keane was one of the prime movers, and Reg Hunt. Certainly there was another two or three that initially said, this is too good to let drop. We shouldn't let it drop. We've got to keep it going. So I started talking to them, and we went to a number of dealers and put it to them about helping out funding the team from it, making it truly a dealer team. And they said, yeah, we will, but we want to be able to generate some income. We need some cash flow. We need some sort of incentive. Can you build some special road cars for us, limited edition stuff, and we'll consider it. So I began HDT Special Vehicles. And the idea was, let's build some cars, reward those dealers who kicked the tin for our race program.
It was a very busy time for everybody involved. I mean, the race team personnel were basically isolated from it, because, as they should have been and were. But for Peter and I and the other people involved in the company, which was starting to get bigger and bigger, HDT Special Vehicles, it was a very busy time. I mean, there was a time when you'd go to a race meeting and probably there might have been a party or some function on the Sunday night, and you'd fly home on Monday sometime. Once we were involved with HDT from 1980 on, we were out of there on the first flight on Sunday nights and at work at 8 o'clock on Monday morning. And that continued for many, many years. But the company expanded, and the cars were very well received all the way through.
And so began HDT Special Vehicles, producing high-performance Holden cars for retail customers and at the same time continuing the race program. But there was still the issue of sponsorship to deal with.
Well, when I went to Simmons Plains with the very first Commodore on the racetrack that we'd had to cobble up, we began to cobble it up with John Shepherd in the latter part of 79, but we had a lot of work to do. Anyway, we got it on the track and we filled around there, and guess what? Simmons Plains, we won the race. What an incredible debut for the team and for Commodore in circuit racing. I mean, it was just staggering when you think about it, because the time we just, got the car there, got the result, beauty. I had no sponsorship when I went down there. I had nothing. Philip Morris had not committed. I had the signs on the car based on the fact that we'll do a pretty good job for you and we'll show you what we can do. They said, you show what we can do, we'll sponsor you.
The new arrangements worked brilliantly. With Brock now running the operation himself, he continued his winning ways on the track in the new VB Commodore, winning his third touring car title. As always, the icing on the cake for the season was the big race on the mountain. And for the third year running, Jim Richards successfully teamed up with Peter Brock.
Brock, Richards, the Marlborough Holden dealer team and their Commodore had no peers at Bathurst. They did it the hard way, but they did it well.
It was a bit of a fairy tale victory, because we had damage to the car. I'd clobbered a bloke very early on in the race. I was lapping a little Gemini, clipped him, and it didn't hurt the radiator, but it did require a quick pit stop to rip some bodywork off, get going again. But, as it transpired, we stuck around, got the result,
Yes, we had a very, very tough battle today. It's an absolute credit to the guys behind the scenes.
It was just a terrific reward for a group of people who, I mean, we were proving ourselves. We were the new guard, if you like, at the time. And we weren't the old guard by any stretch of the imagination, and we had to prove that, hey, us young guys can do it.
But it's Dick Johnson from Queensland who for the first time draws the cheers of the crowd, and the Ford flags are out.
In the early 80s, Dick Johnson was also achieving success in his Falcon and Alan Moffat with his Mazda RX-7. The Commodores were facing new challenges, but were still winning races. Brock teamed up with Larry Perkins to win again on the mountain in 1982, and then again in 1983.
We had the ability of doing enduro races, but shorter races, tight tracks, Amaroo and goodness knows what, that Mazda was driving us nuts. And its exhaust note in the pits, we'd go, oh, do we have to listen to this sound anymore? Get out of here, Moffat. Get that Mazda and get... But when it came to the mountain, yeah, we got the chocolates at the mountain ride.
Through the years, he's done it. He's put 7 on the board. Peter Brock wins the 1983 James Hardy 1000 at Mount
The 1983 victory at Bathurst was credited to 3 drivers for the first time, but Peter Brock did not finish in the car he started with.
Hello, 05, Peter Brock is in the pits. Well, one sensation after another in this race. The leader of the race coming in very slowly too.
Perkins and Brock were cross-entered in both HDT cars, and when their engine failed while leading after just 7 laps, they did what they were entitled to do under the rules. They took over the number 2 car.
That had happened before that 83 race with 3 drivers, or the second driver taking over the first car, or vice versa, and that was within the rules. But what had never happened before, the car hadn't won the race. It had happened before, but nobody had taken any notice of it. So anyway, there's a lot of controversy about that, but we had talked about it the night before and the year before and so on, as long as those rules had been in. Not expecting that it would happen, and I think I was running second at the time. Peter had some problem, I forget exactly what it was, engine problem. I got the signal from the pits that Peter was out, so I knew what was happening, that they would call me in, and that's what happened. And I got out of the car, and I think about lap 25 or 6 or something like that, with the car in second place. And Peter took over, and the only disappointment I had was the fact that I never got back in the car on the day. But at the end of the day, it really didn't matter. I'd started the car, I'd qualified it well, and I think we had a pretty good chance of winning the race anyway. But so I won it.
So it was a good party that night.
It was a very good party that night.